Hi everyone, Pop-Up COP Day 3. So here we are in London again. This is not Adrian, as you've noticed, this is.
Hi, I'm Kieran Aurora.
And you're with?
Evershed Sutherland. I'm a partner at an international law firm.
And I've known Kieran, I don't know, about...
Too long.
15, 20 years, I think, I don't know. We normally talk about renewable energy, so this is quite interesting. We don't usually talk about COP and climate and stuff, so I thought maybe you could just give a couple of minutes while you're here, and then at the end perhaps wrap up with the reflections on the day. We've got 15 minutes, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it tight. So I'm here with two different hats on. So my day job, I advise clients on their investments into predominantly renewable technologies, but also nature-based solutions. And the major theme that the private sector is looking at the COP negotiations on is for predictability and some kind of policy framework that they can then plan their businesses around, work out how much of their core strategy is going to be aligned with the macroeconomic and global political outlook. So that's the kind of the main lens through which I look at life, because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, is I advise people on how to manage the risk, what kind of policies are coming through, how that's going to line up with their strategies for investment. The other hat that I wear is a pro bono hat. So for 15 years now, I've been providing support with the Legal Response Initiative, which is an award-winning pro bono institute based in London, but with a global network of lawyers providing support through the COP negotiations to NGOs and smaller nations who don't always have the same resources as some of the better developed nations. And so there's a kind of an arms imbalance through the negotiations, and we provide through free legal advice some recalibration on that, and that's given me a perspective over, say, 15 years of how the negotiations have been developing and where the issues are. So those are the two hats that I wear and why I'm interested.
Thank you. For people who are joining who don't know, perhaps some younger people, pro bono, as Kieran said at the end, is free work, and I didn't know until recently that Kieran did this work. Ram, you need to change your camera back again. For some reason your phone doesn't fit. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're now going to flip over to Alessandro, our roving reporter, who's now roved down to the river. Thank you.
Yeah, I rode down to the riverside here, where earlier today we had a couple of boats crammed with protesters from the indigenous communities going up and down, waving flags and being shadowed by some police boats. But last night they actually broke in to the COP venue. They were marching up the avenue that leads to the COP venue. They ran through the security zone. They broke down a couple of doors and they congregated in the open area, the entrance area. They were quickly tackled by the UN security staff and local police, and they were marched off. But it certainly changed the mood a little bit this morning. I think people are a bit more concerned. We're getting emails and texts from people saying, "Is this safe?" And frankly, it is safe. This was just an isolated incident. We usually get protests at COP. It's not unusual. The degree that this one went forward and breaking into the zone, that's a little bit different. But before all that happened last night, we were discussing markets, carbon markets in the UN system. And there was a big contact group on what's known as Article 6.4, which is the main global marketplace for carbon reductions. And there's a big dispute going on between many countries to do with monitoring the impact and monitoring the success of projects that remove carbon from the atmosphere. And the idea is these projects are credited for a number of years with earning emissions removals, and earning tradable emission certificates. But after they've stopped generating those credits, they have to continue to be monitored to make sure that they don't release CO2 back into the atmosphere long after the project's formally finished. And this has become quite a strong and quite a contentious debate, if you like, between the European Union on one side and a lot of developing and emerging economies on the other side. So we're going to see how this one plays out. But at the moment, it's still pretty intractable. And we're waiting to see how further contact develops the issues between these countries over the next few days. That's pretty much where we are at the moment. And a lot of work is going on the main agenda items in innumerable contact groups, informal consultations on all of the agenda items to do with gender equality, to do with finance, to do with technology transfer. All the issues that are usually discussed at a COP are undergoing consultations right now.
Great. Thank you, Alessandro. I know you have to run, so thank you. We'll see you again soon, no doubt. Thanks very much.
Thanks very
We're going to
much,
jump
guys.
over to India now, actually. Ram Babu is in India. He hasn't travelled to COP before today, but he's been at so many COPs. Ram is very well known and well considered in India. He has various hats. He works as Chief Sustainability Officer for a big company called Green Co. with a K. He has his own consultancy, and he is the chair of it's the Environment and Climate Change Committee, correct, Ram, in FICCI. And FICCI is the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry in India, a bit like one of our big trade associations, ICC, UK, something like that. And they represent 250,000 companies. So I just would like Ram to introduce himself. Hopefully he's going to come back maybe with one or two Indian companies during the time at COP. But if you could just talk a little bit about FICCI, your members, and why COP is important to your members. Thank you, Ram. Can you unmute, Ram, I think.
Thank you, Nicola. Thanks for your generous introduction. And beyond that, I have very little to say about myself. And let me talk about FICCI. As Nicola said, that FICCI represents a large number of industries and businesses in India, and which also includes very large ones and multinational ones, and also the small and medium scale ones. So it broadly represents the interests of the Indian industry at various sizes and scales and different sectors. So I lead the Climate Change Committee in the Federation of Indian Industries. And my members are already there in COP, and unfortunately, this time I could not come to COP at Belem. And yes, Nicola, that your query is essentially to understand what is that concerns, what is the expectation of the Indian industry from the COP. I think, as you all know, that we believed the ambition, or we are committed to the ambition of Paris Agreement, and the India has put forward, our Indian industry has put forward in doing a significant amount of initiatives and investments in energy transition and industrial transformation, industrial decarbonization. Our investments into green hydrogen, our investments into green ammonia surpasses our initial enthusiasm about establishing renewable energy capacity. Today, we have more than 50% of the electricity generation capacity is renewables. And we have also announced a significant amount of green hydrogen capacity and green ammonia capacity. And we clearly see that all such net zero journey initiatives that the Indian industry has announced, and multiples of billions of dollars that we have committed to, all that will happen only if the carbon gets a price, and that would happen, as Alexandra, who had to leave this panel, had pointed out, the discussions around Article 6.4. Only when Article 6.4 gets operationalized, Article 6.2 gets operationalized, and international compliance carbon markets get established, and the carbon price reaches a level in which the good amount of energy transition and industrial decarbonization can be achieved. Okay, and that is what Indian industry is looking forward to. Operationalize as soon as possible Article 6, 6.2, 6.4, and commit to NDC 3.0. And if the ambition is big, NDC 3.0 is big, and all the nations commit to Article 6, including European Union as now is a recent entrant committing to Article 6. So if all that happens, I think the international carbon price will be good enough to finance the real energy transition and industrial decarbonization.
That's
That
great,
is what we
Ram.
are all doing.
Okay, so let's come back to that another day. NDCs, for people, remember that's your national declared contribution. It's country, what the country is going to do. And we've talked a little bit about Article 6, and we'll come back to that. Thank you, Ram. So we're looking for pricing, we're looking for markets, we're looking for leadership around that and country sign up. Thank you. Julianne.
Hello.
Julianne Hogman is from Climate Strategies. I was thinking about when we met. We met on a bus at Stansted Airport, I think it was, and I think I nearly fell over because the bus had a middle bit, and Julianne was looking very striking in a very bright beret, and we got talking and found out that we both were going to COP and had very many people in common that we knew, particularly Michael Grubb. So Julianne and I talked a lot on the journey, and I've spent time with her at COP, and she's here now to talk about something that she's launched. Their organisation has launched today, so Climate Strategies and La Clima. Would you like to take the floor, please, Julianne?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nicola. Even worse, I think it was in Luton Airport. So,
oh, was it?
I think so. So, yeah, the question today that you asked was, firstly, what is a just transition, and what do we mean by a just transition? I think that's going to be an absolutely key question here at COP30. Just transition is a key topic that's being discussed. Sorry, my technology's got a bit funny. There I am. I'm back. So the just transition concept emerged from the labour movement originally, mainly focused on a transition for workers in the energy sector to make sure that people were compensated after where their jobs were changed and when transitioning like the coal regions. That concept has now emerged, evolved and expanded significantly to now encompass transitions, all climate transitions across adaptation, mitigation, and even carbon removals, to make sure that all those transformations are approached in a just and fair way. And as you say, today at COP, we've launched the Just Transition Compass, which is to help people to navigate this just transition, and it gives you all of the history, as well as the history of how it's evolved within the UNFCCC process, because it is named as part of the Paris Agreement, a just transition for the workforce. But as I say, that has really expanded now. And it was originally kind of part of the response measures work, but 2 years ago, the Just Transition Work Programme was launched. And when the UNFCCC now and the negotiators are really trying to agree how do we action a just transition in the UNFCCC, and how can the COP process help deliver just transitions on the ground? But yeah, what is a just transition? It is actually understood by different people in many different ways, which can be part of its beauty, but also part of the issue. We, as part of the Compass, we did an extensive stakeholder engagement process, and four common elements emerged as what is a just transition. So it's a society-wide transformation towards the Paris goals and climate resilience. It's about distributing the burdens and benefits of a transition fairly. It's meaningful stakeholder engagement in planning and decision-making, and it's about leveraging the moment, this moment for change, to address injustices. And those four key pillars, I think, are broadly agreed as what we mean by a just transition.
And you have a report out today called Just Transition Compass, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and you can read all about the history of it and where it can be a lever for change at both the national and international level on the Climate Strategies website.
Yeah, so I read that it's a fair, prosperous and livable future for all. And so as part of the climate transition or the sustainable future, this is something that people will be talking about, and we can come back to again related to carbon finance. We'll see how it goes. Maybe you'll pop in again next week, Julianne. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say finance is about addressing those fairness issues that are often missed by finance. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Kieran?
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the private sector's got a lot to say on that finance, and this COP's going to be particularly important for whether and how it facilitates private sector capital flowing to the places where it's most needed. And I think that's been brought to the fore partly because there's been this historic shortcoming that the private capital has not managed to flow into the right places. And also this time around, there's a renewed emphasis on sub-state actors, in particular with the absence of the US. We're in a dead mouse era. There's no Myanmar, no Afghanistan, no USA, and no San Marino. So the mouse is missing. So what are we going to do? We're going to look to the sub-state actors.
What's the sub-state actor?
So in the US, that'll be states like California instead of the federal government of the US. So the US has not sent its
federal, one level lower.
Federal representatives, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be other actors that drive that. And in building on what Ram and Alessandro had to say, the carbon trading is particularly important at that level. That is where businesses are able to engage, make money, lose money, and work out their strategy. So for me, the private sector, sub-state actors are going to be a key part of what determines the success or otherwise of COP30.
Bringing in Julianne's concerns as well. So there we go. That's day 3. We're going to wrap it up and see everybody again soon. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Julianne. Thanks, Rambabu.
Thank
Speak
you.
soon.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.